When was the last time you lost control? Maybe your boss said something unfair. Maybe someone you love said the wrong thing at the wrong time. Maybe your plans fell apart in one moment, and everything you worked for felt like nothing, and you reacted, fast, hard, without thinking. You said something you did not mean. You made a decision you later regretted. Or maybe you just shut down completely, closed yourself off, and let the anger or the fear sit heavy in your chest for days. If that has happened to you, I want you to know something. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are simply untrained. Because here is what nobody tells you when you are growing up. Nobody teaches you how to handle your emotions. They teach you math. They teach you history. But they never sit you down and say, here is what to do when your world is falling apart and your mind is on fire. So you learned the hard way. You reacted. You suffered the consequences. You told yourself next time would be different. And then next time came and nothing was different. That ends today. This lesson is for anyone who has ever felt out of control, overwhelmed, or broken down by pressure. It is simple English, and it is for people who want real strength, not just good words. By the end of this lesson, the way you handle pressure will never be the same. Because calm is the real power, not the loudest voice, not the fastest reaction, not the hardest punch. The calmest mind, that is what wins. That is what lasts. That is what changes everything around you. Today we are going to look at what your emotions really are, why they take over, and exactly how to take back control. Not someday, not when life gets easier. Right now, with the life you have. Stay with me. Lesson 1. Your emotions are not your enemy. Let me ask you something. What do you do when you feel angry? Do you push it away? Do you tell yourself to stop feeling it? Do you say, I should not feel this way, and then feel even worse because you still feel it? Most people fight their emotions. They treat feelings like problems to solve, like errors to delete. They think that strong people do not feel fear, do not feel pain, do not feel overwhelmed. That is wrong. Let me tell you what is actually happening inside your brain when pressure hits. Deep inside your brain, there is a small part called the amygdala. Think of it as your brain's alarm system. It is always watching. It is always ready. And when it sees danger, it does one thing very fast. It takes over. Before your thinking brain can say, wait, let me understand this situation, the alarm has already fired. Your heart beats faster. Your body gets ready to fight or run. Your mind goes blank. This happens in less than 1 second. Scientists call this an amygdala hijack. Your alarm system takes the wheel before you even know what is happening. This is why you say things in anger that you never planned to say. This is why you freeze when you need to think clearly. This is why smart, good people sometimes do things that do not match who they really are. It is not weakness, it is biology. But here is where everything changes. Feeling an emotion and acting on that emotion are two completely different things. You can feel angry and still speak calmly. You can feel afraid and still move forward. You can feel hurt and still choose kindness. The feeling arrives without your permission, but what you do next, that is your choice. Think about a surgeon in the operating room. The pressure is enormous. One wrong move and a life changes forever. Do you think a great surgeon feels nothing? Of course not. They feel the weight of every moment. But they have trained their hands, their mind, their breath to stay steady no matter what they feel inside. They do not fight their feelings, they work through them. That is what we are learning today. Weak people fight their feelings. Strong people listen to them. Your emotions are not your enemy. They are information. They are signals from deep inside you telling you that something important is happening. Your job is not to shut them down. Your job is to hear them, understand them, and then decide how to respond. When you stop fighting your emotions and start listening to them, something changes. The storm gets quieter, not because the storm stops, but because you stop feeding it. Your emotions are not the problem. The problem is what you do when you do not understand them. Now let us talk about where your real power lives. Lesson 2. The gap is everything. There is a moment that most people never notice. It happens in less than a second. It is smaller than a breath. But inside that moment lives the difference between a life you are proud of and a life full of regret. It is the gap between what happens to you and how you respond. Something occurs. Your boss criticizes your work in front of everyone. Your partner says something that cuts deep. Your phone rings with bad news. The project you spent months building falls apart in one afternoon. That is the event. You cannot control it. It happened. It is real. But then there is that tiny space, that fraction of a second before you do anything, before you speak, before you act, before you decide. That space is where your power lives. Most people never find that space. The event happens and the reaction follows immediately, like a reflex. Stimulus, response. No thinking in between. No choice. Just automatic. But the people who seem calm under pressure, the ones you look at and wonder, how do they do it? They have found that space. They have learned to live inside it. Even for just 3 seconds, 3 seconds, just 3 seconds, that is where your power lives. Imagine 2 people sitting in the same meeting room. Their manager stands up and announces that a major project has failed. The team will need to start again from the beginning. 6 months of work gone. Person A hears the news and reacts immediately. Their face goes red. They say something sharp. They blame someone. They storm out. For the rest of the day, they cannot think clearly. Their anger follows them everywhere. Person B hears the exact same news. Something tightens in their chest. Their first thought is also anger, but they do not move yet. They breathe slowly, once, twice. They give themselves 3 seconds. They look around the room. They ask one calm question. What do we need to do next? Same event, 2 completely different responses, 2 completely different results. Person B did not feel less. They did not care less. In fact, they cared deeply. But they used that gap. They stepped into it instead of skipping over it. So how do you find that gap when everything around you is moving fast and your emotions are loud? You start small. You practice when the pressure is low, so that when the pressure is high, it becomes natural. When someone says something that upsets you, do not answer immediately. Breathe first. 1 slow breath. Not to be polite, not to seem calm, but to give your thinking brain a chance to catch up with your alarm system. When a situation feels out of control, stop before you act. Ask yourself one question. Is my next move coming from fear or from choice? When you feel the heat rising inside you, count to 3 silently. Not because 3 seconds fixes everything, but because 3 seconds is enough to remind you that you have a choice. 3 seconds, just 3 seconds. That is where your power lives. This is not a small thing. This is everything. Because the moment you find that gap, the moment you step inside it and make a real choice instead of just reacting, you are no longer a product of your circumstances. You become someone who decides. And calm is the real power. Not because calm people feel nothing, but because calm people choose everything. Lesson 3. The 4 enemies of calm. Before we go further, I need to be honest with you. Staying calm is not just a technique. It is not just breathing and counting to 3. There are things working against you every single day. Things that steal your calm before you even realize it is gone. I call them the 4 enemies of calm. And here is what makes them dangerous. None of them live outside you. You cannot see them coming from across the room. They do not announce themselves. They live inside your own mind and they move quietly. Let us name them. Enemy 1. Judging too fast. Something happens, and before you even fully understand it, you have already decided what it means. Your boss did not say good morning today, so clearly he is angry at you. Your friend did not reply to your message, so clearly something is wrong. The project is difficult, so clearly it is going to fail. Your mind moves fast, too fast. It fills in the gaps with stories, and most of the time, those stories are wrong. But by the time you realize that you have already reacted to a problem that never existed, the moment you judge too fast, you lose the gap. You lose your power. You react to a story your own mind invented. Slow down your conclusions. Ask yourself, do I actually know this, or am I guessing? Enemy 2. Old wounds. This one is quiet and very dangerous. Something happens today, something small, and suddenly you feel a pain that is much bigger than the situation deserves. Your colleague criticizes your idea, and you feel completely worthless. Your partner forgets something, and you feel completely alone. Why does a small thing hurt so much? Because it is not just today's situation you are feeling. You are also feeling every time someone made you feel that way before. Every old hurt that you never fully healed is still living inside you, waiting. And when today's moment touches it, everything comes out at once. You are not overreacting to the present. You are reacting to the past. When you feel a reaction that seems too big for the situation, stop. Ask yourself, is this really about now, or is something older speaking? Enemy 3. Fear of the future. What if this goes wrong? What if I cannot handle it? What if everything falls apart and I lose everything? This is the what-if loop, and once it starts, it is very hard to stop. Your mind jumps forward, builds the worst possible picture, and then reacts to that picture as if it is already real. But it is not real. It has not happened. You are spending real energy, real emotion, real calm on something that exists only in your imagination. The future is not here yet. You cannot control it from this moment by worrying about it. The only thing you can control is what you do right now. When the what-if loop starts, bring yourself back. Ask yourself what is actually in front of me right now in this moment. Enemy 4. Needing others to change. This is perhaps the most painful one. If only he would understand. If only she would stop doing that. If only people were different, then I could be calm. When your calm depends on other people's behavior, you have given away your power completely. You have made your peace of mind a prisoner of someone else's choices. And people rarely change on your schedule. So you wait. And while you wait, your calm disappears day by day. You cannot control other people. You never could. The only person whose behavior you can change is you. When you catch yourself thinking, if only they would stop, replace it with this: what can I do right now, regardless of what they do? These are your 4 enemies: judging too fast, old wounds, fear of the future, needing others to change. They are not outside you. They are patterns inside your mind. Patterns that you learned, which means they are patterns you can unlearn. You cannot fight what you refuse to name. Now you have named them. That is the first step, and it is a powerful one. Lesson 4. Name it to tame it. Now we get practical. You know what the amygdala does. You know about the gap. You know your 4 enemies. That is understanding. But understanding alone does not change anything. What changes things is what you do in the moment when the pressure is real and the emotion is loud and your heart is beating fast. So let me give you the simplest, most powerful tool I know. Name it. When an emotion arrives, do not push it away. Do not pretend it is not there. Do not tell yourself to be strong and feel nothing. Instead, stop for 1 second. and say to yourself quietly what you are actually feeling. I feel angry right now. I feel afraid. I feel hurt. I feel overwhelmed. That is it. Just name it. Simple words, true words. This is called emotional labeling, and what happens in your brain when you do this is remarkable. The moment you put a name to what you feel, your brain shifts. It moves from the reactive part, the alarm system, to the observing part, the thinking brain. Not completely, not instantly, but enough. Enough to create space. Enough to slow the reaction down. Enough to give you back a little control. Researchers who study the brain have found that naming an emotion can reduce its intensity in just seconds. Not because the feeling disappears, but because now you are looking at it instead of being inside it. You become the observer, not just the person being hit. Think of it this way. Imagine a dark room. You are inside it and you cannot see anything. Something is moving in the dark and it frightens you. That fear is enormous because you cannot see what it is. Now someone turns on a light. The thing in the dark is still there, but now you can see it clearly. And the moment you see it, it loses half its power over you. Naming your emotion is turning on the light. Now let me give you something else. Something that works alongside naming. Something that elite soldiers use in the most dangerous moments of their lives. It is called box breathing. It works like this. Breathe in slowly for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Breathe out slowly for 4 seconds. Hold again for 4 seconds. That is one box. 4 sides, 4 seconds each. When you do this, something physical happens. Your nervous system slows down. Your heart rate drops. The alarm inside your body begins to quiet. Your thinking brain gets more oxygen. You become more capable of making a real choice. You do not need to do it for a long time. Even 1 or 2 boxes is enough to change the feeling in your body and bring you back to yourself. Name it. Breathe through it. Choose your next move. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. You're in a meeting. Someone challenges your idea in front of everyone. You feel the heat rise in your face. Your first instinct is to defend yourself immediately, to speak fast and loud, and prove that you are right. Instead, you pause. You say to yourself silently, I feel embarrassed. I feel defensive. You breathe. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, and then calm, you say. That is an interesting point. Let me think about it for a moment. The room changes, the energy changes. And you just demonstrated more strength in that one quiet moment than in any argument you have ever won. That is calm. That is the real power. Because power is not about being the loudest or the fastest. It is about being the most in control of yourself when everything around you is pushing you to lose that control. Name it. Breathe through it. Choose your next move. Practice this when it is easy so that it becomes natural when it is hard. Name your emotions in small moments. When you are stuck in traffic. When a plan changes. When something small annoys you. Train the skill in low pressure so it is ready in high pressure. Because when the real storm comes, and it will come, you want this to be something you have already done 1,000 times. Lesson 5. Your calm is contagious. Up to now, we have talked about calm as something personal, something you build for yourself, something that protects you. But I want to show you something bigger. Your calm does not stay inside you. It moves outward. It touches everyone in the room with you. And so does your panic. Scientists who study human behavior have a name for this. They call it emotional contagion. Emotions spread from person to person like a signal, like a wave. You walk into a room where someone is anxious and nervous, and within minutes, without knowing why, you start to feel tense too. You sit next to someone who is peaceful and relaxed, and something in you begins to soften. You have felt this before. You know this is true. Now think about what this means. When you lose control of your emotions in a difficult moment, you are not just hurting yourself. You are spreading that energy to the people around you. Your panic makes others panic. Your anger makes others defensive. Your fear makes the room feel more dangerous than it already is. But when you stay calm when you find that gap and choose your response, something different happens. People around you begin to slow down too. The temperature in the room drops. The thinking becomes clearer. Solutions appear that nobody could see when everyone was reacting. Your calm is a gift you give to everyone around you. This is why in any crisis, the calmest person in the room becomes the most important person in the room. Not the loudest, not the most experienced, not the most senior, the calmest. The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. Think about that. When everything is falling apart and someone starts to shout, what do you feel? You feel less safe. You feel more chaos. You feel like the situation is worse than you thought. But when someone speaks slowly and clearly, when someone asks a steady question, when someone simply does not panic, what do you feel? You feel that maybe things are going to be all right. That person is not doing anything complicated. They are simply managing themselves. But the effect on everyone else is enormous. There was a Roman emperor, a man named Marcus Aurelius, who ruled during some of the most difficult years in his empire's history. Wars on the borders, disease spreading through his cities, corruption inside his own government. He faced crisis after crisis for decades. And every morning before the problems of the day arrived, he wrote. Not orders, not plans. He wrote to himself. He wrote about his own emotions, his own weaknesses, his own fears. He practiced calm, the way a soldier practices fighting, every single day. Not because life was easy, but because he knew that the people around him needed him to be steady. He understood something that most leaders never learn. Your emotional state is not just your private business. It is the weather that everyone around you lives in. You thought calm was about protecting yourself. It is actually about leading others. Think about your own life, your family, your team, your friends. When you are anxious and reactive, what does that do to the people closest to you? And when you are steady, what does that create around you? You do not need a title to be a leader. You do not need an office or a position. The moment you choose calm when everyone else is choosing chaos, you become the leader in that room. People will look to you. People will follow your energy without even realizing they are doing it. And this is why developing emotional mastery is not a selfish act. It is one of the most generous things you can do for the people you care about. Your calm is contagious. Use it. Because calm is the real power. Lesson 6. Stand still at the center of the storm. I want to tell you something that nobody talks about enough. Everyone has a storm inside. Not just you. Not just the people whose lives look hard from the outside. Everyone. The person who seems completely confident. The person who smiles easily. The person who always seems to have the right answer. They all have a storm inside them. Doubt, fear, old pain, moments where everything feels like too much. The difference is not who has the storm and who does not. Everyone has it. The difference is where you stand when it arrives. Some people stand at the edge of the storm, where the wind is strongest, where everything is moving and breaking and loud. They get pulled in every direction. They react to every gust. Every new problem hits them like the first one. They are exhausted because they are fighting the storm from the outside, and the storm never ends. But there are people who stand somewhere else. They stand at the center. And at the center of any storm, there is something you might not expect. Stillness. Not because the storm is gone. The storm is very much there, all around them. But at the center, the noise is quieter. The movement is slower. There is enough stillness to breathe, to see clearly, to make a real decision. These are the people you remember. The ones who did not fall apart when everything around them was falling apart. The ones who were not louder, not faster, not harder, just calmer. And here is the truth that I need you to hear clearly. That place, the center of the storm, is a choice. It is not a talent you are born with. It is not a reward for people who have easier lives. It is a place you choose to stand, again and again, in every difficult moment, even when every part of you wants to run. I want you to think about a person in your life, someone who faced something very hard, loss, failure, betrayal, illness, and instead of collapsing, they became quieter, steadier, more themselves, not less. Maybe you wondered, how do they do that? Where does that come from? It comes from practice. It comes from every small moment before the big one, where they chose response over reaction, where they named the feeling instead of being controlled by it, where they breathed instead of exploded, where they stayed instead of ran. They were not ready because they were lucky. They were ready because they had been building that readiness every single day in small moments that nobody saw. You have been practicing the wrong thing. You practiced reacting. Every time something went wrong and you let the emotion take over completely, you practiced that. You made that pattern stronger. Now it is time to practice something different. It is time to practice responding. Not louder, not faster, not harder. Calmer. Because the storm is coming. That is not a threat. That is just life. Difficulty comes. Loss comes. Pressure comes. You do not get to choose whether the storm arrives, but you do get to choose where you stand when it does. And I want you to stand at the center. I want you to be the person in the room that others look at and feel safer. I want you to be the voice that slows things down when everything is speeding up. I want you to be the one who makes a real choice, a clear choice, even when everything around you is uncertain. That is not a small thing. That is not a soft thing. That is the hardest and most powerful thing a human being can do. Stand still. Breathe. See clearly. Choose. Not louder, not faster, not harder. Calmer. That is who you are becoming. And calm is the real power. Lesson 7. Build it every day. Here is something I want you to understand before we finish. Everything we talked about today, the gap, the labeling, the breathing, the 4 enemies, standing at the center of the storm. None of it works if you only think about it once and then move on. Calm is not a moment. It is a practice. Think about physical strength. If you go to the gym one time, you do not become strong. If you lift weights for 1 week and then stop, you lose what you built. Strength comes from showing up again and again, even when you do not feel like it, even when progress is slow, even when nobody is watching. Emotional strength works exactly the same way. You build it in small moments, in the ordinary, quiet, invisible moments of every single day, not just in the big crisis, not just when everything is falling apart, in the small irritations, the small frustrations, the small fears. Every time you choose response over reaction in a small moment, you are building the muscle that will carry you through the big ones. So let me give you 3 things. 3 small daily practices, simple enough to actually do, powerful enough to actually change you. The first practice, the morning pause. Before you pick up your phone in the morning, before you check your messages, before the noise of the day begins, sit still for 1 minute, just 1 minute. Breathe slowly. Notice how your body feels. Notice if you are already carrying tension somewhere. Notice what is on your mind before the world adds more to it. 1 minute of stillness before the storm of the day begins. That is all. But over weeks and months, that 1 minute builds something. It builds the habit of checking in with yourself. And people who know how they feel are much harder to be controlled by how they feel. The second practice, the midday check-in. Sometime in the middle of your day, pause for 30 seconds. It does not matter where you are. Just stop, breathe once, and ask yourself quietly, how do I feel right now? Not what do I need to do? Not what is wrong? Just how do I feel? Name it. Even if the answer is fine, or tired, or a little anxious, name it. You are practicing the skill of seeing yourself clearly while life is happening. This is what separates people who are carried by their emotions from people who carry themselves. The third practice, the evening release. At the end of your day, before you sleep, take one piece of paper. Write down one emotion you felt strongly during the day. Just one. Write its name. Write what caused it, and then put the pen down. You are not solving it. You are not analyzing it. You are simply taking it out of your body and putting it somewhere outside of you. You are giving it a name, a place, and then letting it rest. This practice does something remarkable over time. You stop carrying the weight of your days into your nights. You sleep better. You wake up lighter. And you start to notice patterns in your own emotions that you never saw before. 3 practices. 1 minute in the morning, 30 seconds at midday, 1 short moment in the evening. That is your daily work. Small, consistent, real. Because real change does not come from one dramatic decision. It comes from small choices made again and again until they become who you are. The world will keep throwing things at you. That will never stop. But you can change how you catch them. That is what we have been building today. You now know that your emotions are not your enemy. They are information. You know that the gap between what happens and how you respond is where your real power lives. You know the 4 enemies that steal your calm from the inside. You know how to name what you feel and breathe through it. You know that your calm reaches the people around you. You know how to stand still at the center of the storm. And now you know how to build this one small moment at a time, every single day. You have been practicing the wrong thing for a long time. That is okay. Every day is a chance to practice something better. Not louder, not faster, not harder. Calmer. Calm is the real power, and now it is yours. One last thing before you go. I have a question for you, and I genuinely want to know your answer. Think about one situation in your life, past or present, where you wish you had stayed calmer. Maybe it was a conversation. Maybe it was a decision. Maybe it was a moment with someone you love. Tell me in the comments, because you are not alone in this. And sometimes just naming it to others is the first step to releasing it. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Every lesson here is designed to help you grow, not just in English, but in the way you see yourself and the world. If this helped you, share it with someone who needs it. And I will see you in the next lesson. Take care of yourself and stay calm.